Ladies and gentlemen, today we are back again in the Platinum Split. Today we will be tackling the racetrack Spa-Francorchamps in the famous Belgium Ardennes, just around the corner of the German-Belgium border. I am Daniel Krylov. You may know me from the Silver and Bronx broadcast, and I will be soon joined by Edward Hunter. Like we see the track 7 kilometers and a high elevation change, especially in the first sector. We have Radillon Arouge here, where you go into the camel straight. A technical second sector with loads of corners, of course. Pouhon, a very tricky double left hand. And the third sector is all about flat out, just maximum high speed, and then braking into the bus stop chicane. 90 cars in total. As we mentioned, high elevation changes and loads of battles we will be seeing here. Today I am joined for this period with Lexi Taylor.
Hello.
How are you, Lexi?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm feeling fine, very excited for this race. As we see, the track is currently wet and it's raining, which will be also in qualifying and in the race. Do you expect this to be a challenge for drivers?
I mean, I don't think we'll see a dry race. Or I don't think we'll see a dry piece of track for the entire event tonight. It's looking like it's going to be even heavier when we get to the race, and qualifying might be slightly less damp than this, but it's definitely going to get more intense for the race, and the race start especially is going to be absolutely chaos.
Yeah, that's for sure. And of course, the qualifying session as well won't be easy for drivers as they have to adapt to the changing conditions, which will of course be wet, but there will be slight drizzle at max, and they will have to adapt their lines maybe if the track is drying, which may be, but not necessarily.
Yeah, I mean, the wet in LMU, you don't necessarily. It's not like iRacing where you have to drive very specific sort of wet lines, as we call them, like karting lines type things. But you definitely got to be a bit more careful, especially with things like curbs, which is you ride the curbs quite a lot in the dry in Spa, and the curbs can be slippery as well. And if you just nick one at the wrong time, things can go wrong pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's for sure. So, as our practice session is over, we will come back to the race results of last round in Qatar, which was won by Leon Berndt, followed by Niklas Huben in the Ford. Afterwards, the last podium finisher, Marine Bessier, our championship leader so far in MGG3. Then the P2 in the championships, Remy Delorme in the Aston Martin, followed by Artyom Manisha in the Corvette, Michel Rodriguez in the McLaren, Patrick Schindler in the Lexus, Clement Abouat in the Aston Martin, as well as followed by Alexis Harrand in the Aston Martin and Juha Mäki-Juppi in the Lexus. Our championship looks as followed. Marine Bessier leads the pack by 67 points, followed by Remy Delorme by 56 points. Afterwards, Thomas Leiden by 43 points. Equal on points with Leon Berndt, also running on 43 points in the Porsche. Patrick Schindler just 2 points away from them with 41 points in the Lexus. And Niklas Huben in the Ford, 37 points to his account. Followed in P7, Alexis Harrand, 30 points in the Aston. Clement Abouat, 20 points also in the Aston, as well as David Naskidashvili with 16 points, having scored one podium in the first round in Portimao, and Nils Klinkmüller as well in 16 points, and as well in an Aston Martin GT3 Vantage.
So just a quick thing for the championship here is that we expect that Tommy Lydon will be getting a drive-through penalty at some point during this race, just because he caused a, well, sort of indirectly, but sort of canon event caused a big pile-up in the last race in Qatar. If everyone was tuned in then, there was, I think, 14 cars involved in that collision. So, we're taking it very seriously, and a drive-through is being given this race because he didn't finish the last race.
Yeah, for sure. And it's also very tricky for him because, he's equal on points with Leon Berndt running in P3, although he has one drop round already to his account, which Berndt does not to this date. But yeah, it's going to be tricky for him to try and capitalize while having this drive to serve. As our qualifying in LMG3 starts now, the drivers have 10 minutes to start the lap. So until 15 minutes are left on the clock, they can finish the lap, start the lap, and finish it afterwards. And afterwards, from 10 minutes to 0 minutes, it's going to be time for the Hypercar qualifying. But I think you're all familiar with it if you tuned in on VMS streams already.
Am I right in saying it's looking quite dry? I think the wipers are on, but I mean, I'm struggling to see who's on what tire. Are we seeing wets? Are we seeing mediums? I mean, I don't know. If we're in a sort of crossover phase, we might see some drivers on the wet. Someone, oh, there we go. Michelle Rodriguez taking a bit of a gamble on the mediums. This is going to be interesting because it's going to be quite hard for the wets to get a lap together because their wets will be overheating, and it'll be quite hard for the medium runners to get their tyres in the right window in terms of temperature for a lap. So we will see probably people go off, people struggle to get laps, even though we're seeing some of the most talented drivers in LMU right now. I think we'll see some mistakes out there. It's definitely going to make things interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Like you already mentioned, the track looks almost dry, but I think in LMU it's always the crossover point from like dry to slightly wet is not really well to be spotted. But as you can see, the wipers are on and the drizzle is still on, so it's going to be a tricky qualifying session for both of the wet runners and Mitchell Rodriguez on his medium slick tires.
Yeah, I mean, Michelle was one of the drivers that managed to retain their seats at the end of last season, and I think it's fair to say that Michelle struggled a bit this season. It was a bit of a risk taking the McLaren so early on in the season, and has it paid off or not? I'm not quite sure, but I mean, if we go off just the last round in Qatar, I can't remember from the top of my head where he scored, but I remember he had a great race, was sort of in contention for a podium. I don't think he got it in the end, but he definitely scored some big points in the last round, so maybe things in his championship are looking on the up.
8 points last time around in Qatar, which is position 6, I think.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah. So last time around in Qatar, he really he's got his only championship points so far, but it was a big scorer. So hopefully he can build his confidence and, of course, his results back from this one.
I'm just seeing that yellow flag at the top left and thinking that this is probably going to be a regular occurrence today. I think we'll see that a lot.
Yeah.
I mean,
as Rodriguez into the pits.
Oh, he's already he's changed his mind. Yeah. He's seen that he can't get the temp in his tires and he's just given up. It was worth a gamble though, especially given that if he wants to get a retained spot for next season, he's going to have to score a lot of points in the next 2 rounds. So taking a bit of a gamble is not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, we've seen in Formula 1 this season that it's paying off for Max Verstappen a little bit, and taking risk when you're on the back foot can help you out a lot in the championship.
Yeah, for sure. It's quite necessary for him to take risks out of his position because he's not an advantage. He needs to really make some upsets or really trying to make his car do wonders. So yeah, he really needs, like you mentioned, needs to take risks. And unfortunately, this one didn't pay out. But maybe we see some kind of different strategy in the race.
It's the Hail Mary strategy, really, trying to save the championship when it looks all over for a lot of the people lower down in the championship. But as we've seen a few times before, that the championship's never over until it's over, and the comeback at the end of the season can sometimes work out.
Yeah, exactly.
So Manisha's on a double purple sector. I suspect he's probably the first person to get a lap in, so we'll probably see the times come down a little bit, especially if the track's drying, which it does look like it should be drying. It doesn't look like it's raining to me. I can't quite see. Oh no, it is raining.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we may or may not see the track dry a little bit, but naturally lap times come down as quality progresses, just because drivers are getting used to the grip level, used to their car again. Maybe they're doing something on the setup. You know, especially in a wet race, so many factors are at play, and it all sort of comes together at the end of the quali.
Yeah, that's for sure. So, Huben is currently running on the provisional pole position in P1, of course, setting a 2:28.3. Yeah, which seems like out of the blue quite a good lap, which has been polled by Leon Bernd, in the Lexus with a 2:27.8.
I mean, right now, the interesting thing for me on the lap times is that we're currently about 10 seconds off where we'd expect dry pace in the Pro Series to be. So a 2:27.7, you'd probably be looking at a 2:18 in the dry. So it is still pretty wet out there, even though to us it looks quite dry from where we're sitting here, but you know, even in racing sims, the camera can sort of make it look drier than it really is.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it looks like kind of a damp-ish track currently. It's not completely wet, like soaking wet, but it's surely not dry as we see by the lap times. So it's something between wet and, you know, damp. I mean, it's maybe its current state is like a damp to slightly wet. Yeah.
It's probably just that stage where if you're offline, there's so much water, and then as soon as you're like on the racing line, that's where the grip is starting to come. So it might be the case of just one tiny sort of running wide on a corner, getting a little bit of understeer can just push you onto the sort of dirty, wet line, and the lap time just bleeds away from you, and we've just seen another yellow flag. I mean, I don't know where they're all coming from, but it might just be people running off, or maybe someone's had a bit of an oopsie somewhere.
Scenery, and of course in the rain adds another challenge.
Yeah, for sure.
Just because, of course, in the dry it's not.
I think Daniel's having mic problems.
Even
Ed Hunter, welcome
more
to the
difficult.
commentary box.
Yeah. Oh, apologies for that.
Sorry.
Had to
Sorry.
finish off the FSR Pro race. It's this is the problem as well when the time slot we have is that it's great for the drivers because it means they're all around in the evening, but it does clash with dinner in the UK at least, as we see Patrick Schindler with the new Vulcan livery. We have a number of drivers, by the way, that have joined this new team, by the way, named after the Vulcan tyre company, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, you can see the windscreen wipers furiously wiping away, but at the present moment, after the first exchanges, unfortunately that I've missed, you can see it is Leon Bernd that is currently fastest of anybody. Our winner from last time out in Qatar, half a second ahead of Nicolaus Huben in the Ford Mustang, and then it's Alexis Hern in the Aston Martin. That's our top three as things stand. Where are our championship contenders, our big leaders though? Marin Bessier, our title protagonist, that's leading the standings. He is down in 8/10 off the pace with just over a minute left to go, and Bessier is stationary in the garage then, so that means he will do no better than P6, and with a lot of quick drivers still out there hoping to do a bit better. The rain might well be stopping Bessier from having a worse time essentially, but yeah, it's certainly far from ideal scenario to be stationary in the pits when you never know. But look at Leiden's first sector here, 3/10 off the pace then, as I think am I co-commentating with Lexi or Daniel? I was a bit confused there as Thomas Leiden pulls off.
I think Daniel was having a few mic problems. They might be fixed by now. Daniel, are you here?
Okay, yeah, Daniel,
yeah,
I think
hello.
we can hear you. There we go. Apologies, it's not usually this chaotic on stream. But in case we didn't say earlier, our big thoughts to Chris Buxton, who can't be with us today because he's unfortunately at a funeral. So that's why he's not here. And condolences to Chris's friend and/or family that are of course affected by that. As now we look at William Giovannini on a personal best, but a second off the pace in the first sector. Our reigning gold split GD3 champion then, and you can tell conditions are not really getting any quicker there. So Leon Bernd, by getting his lap in early, it seems he's put himself in a really strong position. And are we seeing the Porsche 992 at Burnt becoming a dark horse for this title?
Well, the Porsche is a very good car in the wet. I've seen it quite a few times racing against them. They're sort of a dark horse. You might see them in a wet to dry race, and then suddenly, as soon as it goes wet, the car sort of switches on and comes to life. It's a very weird phenomenon, really.
Indeed it is then, as I believe I'm now being, just after calling I'm being called away, just after joining I'm being called away for dinner. So I'll just get to the end of GT3 qualifying, since they're completing the laps now. William Giovannini improves, but does not get higher up the leaderboard. He stays down in 16th and last, 3.7 seconds off the pace, and Giovannini is one of those that's really suffered from not getting a timeout early enough, I think, which is why he is at the very back of the grid. Seb Wunsch, mid-grid, he is coming into the pits in P9 then, so... yeah, a man who has won races in the VMS Platinum Split, but unfortunately, he's not really had the ideal start to the season. A couple of races there have not really panned out, and you can see the pit lane is absolutely drenched, which is going to make Hypercar qualifying very, very interesting indeed. But your order in the grid is going to be Leon Burnt taking pole position in the GT3 from Niklas Huben, Alexis Herndt, Patrick Schindler in fourth, Klinkmuller takes fifth from Marin Bessier, our championship leader, in sixth, Artyom Manisha, another Gold Split graduate. He is in P7 ahead of Thomas Leiden, another of our title contenders. Then is Seb Wunsch in 9th, Naski Dashvili in 10th, Valentin Barrier is 11th, Leo Shornek is 12th, Michel Rodriguez in the McLaren is P13, Remy Delorme, another really badly caught out. That's our man second in the championship, 2 seconds off the pace in 14th. Clement Arbois is 15th, and bring up the rear will be William Giovannini. But now I'm going to very quickly munch down dinner, hopefully in 11 minutes or less. And until I get back, I'll leave you in the capable hands of Daniel Kirilov and Alexi Taylor.
Thank you very much, Ed. So the interesting thing, Daniel, is that Michel Rodriguez actually typed a message in the Platinum channel, and it turns out that he went out on the wrong fuel and tires.
Oh, so it was not like a gamble, like just a unfortunate mistake by him.
Yeah, just
okay. Coming to the results from last time. Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, coming to the results from last time around in Qatar from the Hypercars, we got Fabio Grigoletto winning last time around, with Simoncic finishing P2 on the podium, as well as Iemolo in P3. Afterwards, Finn. Apologies, followed by Kobe Chan in the Aston Martin Valkyrie, in P4, Marco Di Buono in P5 in his Ferrari, Bono Huis in his Ferrari, who's now driving a BMW, driving for the Team Redline team, Michi Hoyer in P7, Johannes Preis in P8, Arda Ercan in the Cadillac in P9, and Francesco Adamo in P10. As well as our Hypercar standings, we had Fabio Grigoletto leading the pack with 73 points in his Ferrari, followed by Dario Mulo with 62 points, Sven Gelhut in his Cadillac with 45 points, Janek Simoncic in his BMW with 40 points, Michi Hoyer with 31 points in his BMW, Bono Huis with 29 points in his Ferrari, which I think will be eagle-eyed because of his car change. Arda Ercan in his Cadillac with 24 points, Christian Bonani with 20 points in his Ferrari, Francesco Adamo with 18 points in P9 with his Ferrari as well, and Kobe Chan finished P4 last time around with his Aston Martin Valkyrie in P10.
Yeah, so we've seen some interesting car changes between this round and last round. Like you said, when you read through the standings, that Bono Huis is now driving the BMW car and is driving for Team Redline. It's going to be very interesting to see what his performance is like, really, because the Ferrari is quite strong on a lot of tracks. It's a good all-rounder car, but the BMW's got quite a good straight line speed. Oh, we've just seen a crash in the pit lane. I think that who was that? I couldn't see.
I think it was maybe Michi Hoyer in his BMW in this really striking Falcon livery, which we have just been confirmed. The Falcon livery, and every driver who is driving the Falcon livery is essentially part of the DER eSports team. DER Motorsport is known for a couple of occasions they drive, or at least they are driving now in the DTM in real life, and also did a few runs in NLS and the 24 Hours of Nürburgring, in real life, and are Now having a esports team here as well in LMU, which you can see by all the Falcon tire liveries. As our qualifying is now starting with Dario Emulo in his Ferrari 499P leading the pack in this wet qualifying, and Lexi, you see it appears to me that it's far more wet than it has been at the start of the LMG3 qualifying.
Well, I was just about to point that out, Daniel. So, what I saw in the GT3 quali was that the fastest laps were the laps that happened at the beginning. I mean, maybe the second push lap for the GT3s was the fastest, I think, for our pole sitter. So, I think we could see the same here in the Hypercar. So, it might just be a case of get a lap down. It doesn't matter if it's the perfect lap. We just need a good banker lap on the current grip level, and we'll be competitive.
Yeah, for sure, because you know, the rain is not seeming like it will be any littler. It will be any little than it is at the moment. So the track will be always wetter and wetter and wetter, and the times will drop further down the order. As we see the already mentioned Team Redline BMW Hypercar driving by Pono Ruiz, the Dutchman who was just recently signed again with the infamous sim racing team, Team Redline, which you should all know by people like Chris Lalham or of course the four-time world championship and current world champion Formula One Max Verstappen.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the Redline drivers are sort of on the brink of moving to real life racing, and it'd be very interesting to see if Bono Hughes gets any opportunities like that. Of course, sort of his teammate or his friend James Baldwin is also driving today, and obviously he drives in real life as well and gets to do GT3 driving in real life. Unfortunately, not hypercars in WEC, but you know, he's certainly getting a taste of real life racing this year.
Yeah, for sure. And as we already mentioned, James Baldwin, his season so far is surely not what he expected it to be. I mean, as it stands, he still has no points scored, or I think not even a round finished really. So surely last time around in Qatar he did not finish the race. So surely it's something he is trying to build, trying to compromise now, given that the real racing season is over now.
He has lost a lot of opportunities to score points in the early rounds because he was racing in real life. I think notably he was racing in Barcelona whilst we were doing a VMS round, and of course if you had the opportunity to drive in real life, you'd pick it any day over this. But it's good to see him in the car now, and I think he'll be here for the rest of the season, which is good to see.
As we see, Dario Emulo is setting a purple lap time in the first sector. I mean, he's, I think, the first man to lead this whole pack. But still, these first few laps are going to be the one that will count, or that will decide if you're going to start on pole or not, or you're going to win it or lose it in the qualifying session. So even on this first lap, you know, these drivers have to give it their all, because the track is going to be worse and worse the more laps these drivers have to their account.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely getting wetter now, isn't it?
Yeah, it appears to me.
Yeah, I think we will see the fastest laps almost now. You know, this is now one sector to go for Dario Emulo on his flying lap, and I think this might just be the fastest lap of the session. It doesn't look like it's drying out at all, and the grip level dictates everything. Even if you're improving as a driver and finding more grip, finding more time, you will still be losing time because the grip level is not just not there, and he's locked up and gone a bit wide into the bus stop chicane, one of the heaviest braking points on the circuit, and it's quite a tricky braking point, to be honest. If you brake too late, you just sort of, you either run wide or you can rear lock sometimes there, and it's quite tricky, and he managed to keep the lapping together. It's a 2:12 for Dario Emulo, and he's fastest now.
Yeah. As we see, Janis Moncic just crossing the line with two purple sectors. What's going to be? It's going to be a 2:12.1, which puts him on pole by 0.5. And I think that's Bunahois into the pit lane. What happened there?
Oh, and he's just decided to quit.
Yeah.
I wonder why that was. Maybe he's gone in for a defuel load, maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
But he's not allowed to do that. He's not allowed to teleport back to garage before the end of qualifying. So we might get it reported. You know, these pack drivers are very competitive, so we quite often see reports after the race of small little things that maybe we don't pick up on as viewers and spectators, but you know, these drivers are fighting over lots of money, so the reports will probably fly in.
Yeah, as the previous mentioned, James Baldwin is now on his flying lap and setting his first sector, which is 3.5 tenths of Simoncic so far, going through the comms.
I mean, we were talking about this just before the broadcast started, and you know, Yanni's got sort of a bit of a knack to finding the grip in the wet and knowing just where the grip is in this game. You know, these drivers are not only sort of very good at driving in general, but when you're at this level, you've got to know how the game works, and you've got to sort of make use of what the game is telling you and sort of find the extra few tenths that you can only find by finding little they're not like cheats or anything, but like exploits in the game, things that you can sort of use to your advantage, and you find them by pushing and pushing and pushing and practicing.
Yeah, so you really have to master the simulation you're competing in, because, you know, in real racing you are always driving the real world, and here in the virtual world you of course have different simulations, have different tire models, different physics, so it's always something you need to account on, and every simulator is handling a bit different from each other. We got ACC, which is of course different from MU, or iRacing, which is of course as well different from MU.
Yeah, I mean, even in this game, we've seen a few different time models across the sort of year and a half that it's been out, and you know, the hypercars also get BOP changes, which it doesn't affect how it drives too much. But again, when you're at this level, every single tenth matters. So Yanni Simicic's time has sort of set the pace a little bit, and it's not really moving, is it?
No, not at all. I mean, his 11.7 to 11.7 is really 5 tenths up everyone else. Imoto is not matching it right now. We got Moko de Buono, who's setting quite a good first sector, just
that line.
600s. It's just 600s of a second.
I've seen that line since F1 eSports.
Yeah, it really, they are extracting every kind of tenth out of their cars, and really can see it here. They're trying to exploit every inch of the track, which is somewhat legally drivable, or where you have more grip, or where you can have quite a more angle into the corner. So you really see those guys have been practicing for a really long time for this event, and also given that this was our pre-qualifying track, they have really loads and loads of playtime only on this circuit, and know it quite well at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just still thinking about that line into Pullon, because that sort of green strip there is, I think it's a drain. So it logically you wouldn't put your car there in the wet, because all the water would be going in that direction. So maybe Marco knows something we don't, but you know, it's definitely a sort of a, let's call it, ballsy line. It may or may not pay off, but based on the delta, I don't think it is paying off. No, he's down on his lap time. But we're almost at the end of quali, so if anyone's going to improve, now's the time to do it.
Yeah, as we have Bonohoy is approaching the bus stop chicane, who was into the pit lane and now is setting his first timed lap. Where is it going to be? Just accelerating out of the bus stop chicane. When's the clock going to stop?
It wasn't valid.
Oh, yeah, it's a 12:13.0, which puts him into P12, just behind James Baldwin. No, no, behind Bonani, because Baldwin just improved. Oh yeah, it's one of the Falcon Der BMWs. I think that's Simon. No, it's Hoyer. Apologies.
Sorry, I thought that lap time was invalid because the thing took a bit of time, and he's just had a sort of a lazy slide, and at that point it's just a case of keeping it out of the wall. You're kind of already going into the gravel even before you've gone off. But it's good he caught it. But that's the end of his quali for sure.
Yeah, of course, not a compatible lap time set. Other than Arda Echan, who is setting a purple sector in the first lap, the first sector, 1/10 up on Simoncic, going through Pouhon. Of course, not using the race in the line used by Bonohois down the drain through Pouhon. The double left hand, of course, a rapidly fast corner, but of course easy to invalidate.
Did you say Bono House going down the drain?
No, he wasn't down drain, but he was using this kind of drain on the right before Pouhon as like
drain galley, not the expression going down.
That was
no.
I didn't know. I was eating dinner, so you can say anything, and I believe you. At this point, as we see Chan is 6/10 down in the middle sector, so the Door Esports driver, there's many of them. You saw Simoncic, no, not Simoncic, Michi Hoyer, sorry, in a very, very similar liveried car then as it swerves through Blanchimont, desperately trying to get the Cadillac into the bus stop chicane here, and can Chan get himself onto the front row, split Simoncic and Amulo are two title contenders then, just to run to the line for the Door Esports driver. You can see Hoyer in the background. Chan is almost certainly going to be a little bit short here. He does improve a little bit, but not enough to get on the front row. And that could well be the last of our front runners. Chan, of course, on the podium in third in Sebring and looking to replicate that. There's Sven Gielhed, another of our Door Esports drivers who was disconnected last time out in Qatar. He is down in sixth, just behind Isaac Gillison. James Baldwin has to settle for P9, the legendary sim racing driver, who of course has not had a great season so far as Paul Baldwin, as there's Gillison. Late lap gets him up to P5 ahead of Sven Gielhed there. So yeah, Gillison holds on to the third row of the grid then. The two Gs, Gillison and Gielhed, right together, but that is really finely poised. So Jene Simoncic, in the words of my old ex-commentator Braden Hill, is once again the pole sister at Spa-Francorchamps. In an immortal sort of Murray Walkerism that he made. So there you go. Let's go through the grid order. Leon Berndt still a half a second clear of Nikolaus Huben in wet conditions. Then it is Alexis Herndt who will start third. Patrick Schindler in fourth in the Lexus. Then it will be Niels Klinkmuller that starts in sixth. Marine Bessier, our championship leader, down in sixth, just ahead of Etienne Manisha. Thomas Leiden will start eighth. Sebastian Wunsch ninth. And the top 10 on the grid will be rounded out by David Naskidashvili. Valentin Barrier starts 11th in the Lexus. Elias Shorneck will start 12th. Michel Rodriguez in the McLaren 13th. But the man for all to do is Remy Delorme, the Go Team driver, down in 14th. Lots of ground for the Frenchman to make up after a tough qualifying. The rain went against him. It also went against Clement Arbois in 15th. And William Giovannini, who was the last to really set a lap time, nearly 4 seconds off the pace. That's how much the track deteriorated. But here is your Hypercar grid order. Jene Simoncic then adding to his long list of poles in the VMS Platinum Split. 2/10 clear of Dario Mulo. Very competitive session. Arda Erchan threatened to steal a spot on the front row. Has to settle for the second, ahead of the Visceral Esports Valkyrie of Kobe Chan, the Hong Kong driver, again putting in another strong performance ahead of Isaac Gillison in the Ferrari Esports machine, and then Sven Gielhed in the Cadillac in P6. Michi Hoyer had a bit of a wide moment at La Source, the hairpin at the start of the lap. He starts P7 ahead of Bonner House. Then it is James Baldwin who will start 9th. Fabio Grigoletto rounds out the top 10. Disappointing qualifying for the championship leader, and big opportunity for Simoncic and Mulo to gain ground then. And have we got time to see 11th through to 13th? There we go. It's 16th, sorry. Marco De Buono starts P11, a man with no luck in this championship at SEMA despite winning on the road in Qatar. Christian Bernardi will start 12th ahead of Yannis Price, Francesco Adamu, Daniele Farinelli, and the rear of the grid made up of Giuseppe Di Noia in the Ferrari. So there you go. Exciting qualifying, Daniel, but the race to come in a minute or so's time, and it's going to be fascinating to see. Everybody pretty much is going to start on wets, unsurprisingly, but will this track dry out, or is it going to be the same weather all the way through to the end?
It's going to be extremely, exciting to see. And as I am concerned, I don't think it will really dry out. We have a maximum rain of heavy rain, so I don't think we will see any dry bits over the course of this over the course of the race. Apologies. So it will cause maybe a few whoopsies from our drivers here, but I'm sure they will try to keep it clean all the time around.
Yeah, whoopsies, very technical terms. We look at the front of Kobe Chan, the rain absolutely lashing down on the Ardennes in front of us there. And that's the conditions. It's going to be absolutely treacherous, like these drivers driving on ice around here. There is Emulo popping in front of him in the Veloce eSports Ferrari. And there is Simičić, the pole sitter, who, of course, will get the inside line going into La Source. It's a bit of an awkward start because the race begins not long after they escape bus stop chicane, isn't it? So you might see one or two in the middle or rear of the field try and anticipate the start slightly.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
There we go. Well, I love it when you agree with me because it means I get to speak again almost immediately, which I love doing. As there we go. It looks like the grid is about to roar into life and slivers away in the wet conditions there, and it's Simičić that will have the unhindered, no spray in his face, he'll have an unhindered view into La Source at the start of this one. So too will Leon Berndt, well, not quite, because Leon Berndt will have all the hypercars in front of him, but once the hypercars get some distance away, Leon Berndt will finally, as long as he keeps a lead, of course, have the track to himself then. This is the rear-facing view from Simičić. You can see Arda Ercan immediately behind us and Kobe Chan alongside in the number 76 Visceral Valkyrie. I'm really going to start to tell these Door eSports drivers apart in this pouring rain. I'm going to giving those race numbers a bright red then. Through the bus stop they come then. And yeah, no, Simičić, who's yet to take a win this season, incredibly, was second last time out, hoping to go one better at his beloved Spa Francorchamps then. We're about to get underway any minute now here in Belgium. Anticipation building ahead of the start. It's going to be wet, it's going to be wild, it's going to be chaotic, and it gets underway now. Now it's racing here at Spa Francorchamps, and Simičić holds the inside from Dario Müller into turn one. The two Door eSports cars getting very close. Of Gierhead, oh, it spun around and hits Michi Hoyle there as they struggle to find space into the first corner. Niklas Hupen, meanwhile, has jumped Leon Berndt from the source for the lead of the GD3 race. Simičić made a good break from Emulo. He's going to try and get the run down the Camel Straight. They're all definitely straight, even a straight line at the top of Radion then, and Ercan is going to get a double toe here as he tucks in behind Simičić. Emulo to the outside. Ercan going through the middle. That's brave and that's bold from the Cadillac driver. Can the Turkish man go through and take the lead? Yes, he can almost, but Simičić is going to keep his wheel in and has to go off track, and surely he's going to have to back up there as they almost hit each other again. Oh, and round goes Gierhead, and it's absolute chaos behind him, as I think that's a couple of drivers that hit trouble. That is, I think, some of our back markers there that have just absolutely tripped over one another. Yeah, so Ercan taking the lead, and then this is, oh dear, the BMW going wide. Christian Benani, I think, involved in this one, and Baldwin, I think, as well, and Grigoletto, crucially, was the one that spun out into the gravel there. So our championship leader, because he qualified just inside the top 10, has lost out big time on this first lap, Daniel. And meanwhile, Huben is into the lead ahead of Leon Berndt. And there's been a different winner every race so far in GD3 this season, if I'm not mistaken. And I think Niklas Huben is keen to keep that tradition going.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Niklas Huben is trying to now really capitalizing on this gap he has now. I mean, in the rain, it's also very fortunate to be running in P1 because you don't have the spray caused by the car in front of you. I mean, given when you're not following a hypercar or any back markers, as we see the battle is still ongoing. A yellow flag is waved somewhere on the track, and there's, I think, Rigoletto trying to fight his way through the.
Oh yeah. He started in the back of the grid, and his bid to make progress is backfired. There's a couple of that's Grigoletto trying to make his way back through the GD3 pack, and there was a touch there from, was that Valentin Barrier in the Lexus there, and into the gravel at the Fanny chicane goes Remy Delorme, who is not going to be too impressed by that one, and that's given Remy Delorme putting him right to the back of the field once again, and he's got 57 minutes down, which to try and turn this around. Luckily for him, I don't think Mirim Bessi has made any progress. It's still outside the top 5 then. The man who has made a bit of progress is Artyom Manisha, who's gotten into third. As in comes, it's that Thomas Leiden diving into the pits in the background. It was certainly one of the Lexus cars, as we see Lars Grigalow still makes his way through. It was Leiden. There we go. I'm quite proud that I spotted that, because I got like a split-second view of the car there, and I had to do it from memory there. As on the inside of must be a Lexus Herd there that Grigalow clears, and you can see there Bernd is trying to line up a move to get revenge on Nicolas Huben. They're starting to drop Artyom Manicha, who was so strong in the gold split race at Interlagos. Very nearly won that one, but was just beaten in the end by Alexander Hanna to his first ever win. And yeah, Artyom Manicha, after a strong performance in Qatar, finishing I think in the top 5, top 6, would dearly love to get a first ever podium in the Platinum Split as Grigalow finally clears the GT3 cars, and it's going to be a long, difficult, wet afternoon, or evening I should say, for Fabio Grigalow. Meanwhile, Ercan continuing to lead from Imulo and Simoncic, if I'm not mistaken. So yes, Simoncic has actually really lost out after going wide at the first couple of corners. And speaking of which, there is, I think that's Remy Delorme hitting more trouble, is it? No, this is Naskidashvili trying to get past. Oh, makes contact with the number 27, and they're both around. So that is pretty disastrous. Is the 27, that's Bessier, isn't it?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, sorry, I've turned Nicolas down because the game sound was so loud that I couldn't hear myself think, and I think that's probably the same case for those watching on stream, so I'll try and shout as loud as I can, so I've not really had any time to set up the mic, having to join mid-qualifying. But anyway, Arda Ercan continues to lead by 0.8 of a second from Yene Simoncic, and Ercan yet to take his first win. And Daniel, this is a big, big opportunity for him. But Imulo, who has been a bit of a master in Fuji, where he won and had some great fights against Grigalow so far this season for victory, is really looking to change things. Oh, is that Christian Benani going really wide at bus stop there, as we looked at Johannes Price in the bit now defending. Oh, nearly hits Denoyer as he clomps over the curbs and rejoins the circuit there. So Benani just avoiding disaster. So he's fighting with Denoyer here through Blanchimont. Really late on the brakes. He sort of just aquaplanes off way too late, and lucky not to hit the back of the 13th place car there, the Gilhead.
Yeah, not what we're trying to see, and of course avoiding the other car just by inches. But yeah, Ercan really a great opportunity for him to secure his first victory of the season. I mean, he has 1 second already as a gap to Imulo, but Imulo won't really will try everything he has in his hands to try and attack Ercan over the course of the 55 minutes left to go. A very chaotic start, a very chaotic 5 minutes, as we saw our championship leader now running in P on last place essentially in Hypercar field, and of course the LMG3 field also really shuffled through now, as we see Leon Bernd following closely of Nicolas Huben after the
I think Kobe Chan has hit trouble. Sorry to interrupt, but Kobe Chan dropping out of 5th position. He's been passed by Michi Hoyer, and now Bono House has cleared him as well. There he is. You can see, I think is that Bono just in, no, that is Marco De Bueno right behind, and then I think Isaac Gillison, and then Bono House in front of him as well. So did Bono change cars before this race? Because I think that's him in the BMW, isn't it?
Yes, Bono
there we go.
Yeah, Bono has changed to the Team Red Line BMW because he is.
Yes.
Yeah, he again signed with the team.
Yeah, there we go. So Bono House trying to relive the glory days. I wonder if he's going to try and get another 5 FSR World Championships. I'd certainly love to see that, but remains to be seen. Let's not talk about FSR though, because that pro race finish, although if you do want to tune into that, that is I think about to go live in the next 20-30 minutes. So if this race really gets dull, you have got an excuse in and out, but no reason so far in the pouring rain to do so, as we see Kobe Chan desperate. And remember, he had that charge back through the field after losing out in the pit stops, didn't he, at Qatar, and he was able to get into P4 ultimately, his best ever finish in the Platinum Split. At the moment though, he is not looking, after great qualifying, he's not really looking on course to measure that. The visceral Valkyrie not looking as confident in the rain compared to the Ferraris. And really, apart from the Cadillac leading, it's the Ferraris and BMWs that have really climbed to the fore so far in Hypercar in this race. Again, a little bit wide there, and that's going to De Bueno. Where did De Bueno qualify again? Because I swear he was outside the top 10, but he's climbed up to 8th then. So Marco De Bueno, fair play to him. He's been extremely resilient after, I think, having so many points taken away from him this season. His first points, as he goes really wide off track at the top of Radion there in his bid to overcome the Valkyrie. He's pushing to the outside here. How late will he go on the brakes compared to Kobe Chan into Lecom? The chicane at the end of the Kelmore Straight, it's not late enough then. And Marco De Bueno, who I think is another that switched cars there, because that looked like the Alpine that he was driving, has to settle for an 8th position as we see Farinelli under attack from resurgent-looking Sven Gieler. So Gieler being spun out on the first lap. He's desperately trying to emulate his fellow Cadillac of Chan and get up the order as we see Kobe Chan once more fending off De Bueno. De Bueno getting the Alpine up the inside into Speaker's corner. That's going to be close. He pushes Kobe Chan a little bit onto the gravel there, and I think Kobe Chan was defending very, very hard there and ended up losing out quite badly. Oh, and wide goes De Bueno to Pujon. That's going to allow the Valkyrie back up the inside. Fantastic side-by-side racing, but it's getting very, very physical between the Hong Kong resident and the Italian there. And yeah, De Bueno not looking too impressed by Kobe Chan driving. It looks very wide, doesn't the Valkyrie? But the way Kobe Chan's driving it, almost the same width as the track, essentially.
Really great defense by Kobe Chan, but of course they are giving each other nothing at all. It's really fighting about every inch of the track, and like you mentioned, Kobe Chan is making his Aston Martin Valkyrie as wide as the track is, at least it seems like. Now we see Bonohuis running into P5 by under attack from Isaac Hillis and following him through Blanchimont.
Indeed he is. Keep your eyes as well on Imulo and Simicic in the battle for P2, because they are both starting to just slowly close back in on Erchan. Erchan had got the gap over a second, and now he is starting to be caught once more as Bonohuis and Isaac Gillison then. So it is Ferrari eSports driver versus Team Redline eSports driver, isn't it then? So yeah, two of the top eSports organizations we see. Oh, is that a Tatum car that was going really wide out of the exit of the bus stop there? It looks like Farinelli actually may have hit a bit of trouble, and De Neuer getting involved in this as well. As up the inside comes Benani, 3 into 1 into Lassour's. Benani on the inside somehow escapes in one piece and is still up the inside of De Neuer. One of these two is going to have to back off, going up into Orouge and Radion in the pouring rain. It's still raining cats and dogs at the moment here in the Ardennes. And somehow, we didn't quite see how that battle resolved, but I think they made it through okay. Meanwhile, GD3, this is a battle for P6 between Klinkmuller and our championship leader, Bessier, who's fallen from 6th on the grid to P7. And there, finally, De Bueno's made it through at Lecom. Oh, and again, getting sideways through Brussels there. As that is, again, Marco De Bueno just absolutely hanging the rear of that Alpine out, and then understeering through Rivage as they go down towards Speaker's Corner once more then. So they're so evenly matched, they're just trading mistakes all the time, and the top 6 are just escaping up the road from them as a consequence. Look how far off track De Bueno is going as well on the entrance to Pujon. Look at the curve pops up when it does, but no wonder he was running so wide here early on, and he does it again.
Yeah, I was trying to mention early on in qualifying, he was this is the drain down on the right. This is the line he was driving in the qualifying as well, which was really something not familiar to me.
Oh, and that is Clement Arbois with a superbly brave move on Valentin Barrier there for P8 then. William Giovannini from the back of the grid, he's gone up to 10th. He wants a piece of that Lexus as well. So Barrier will have to form defensive shapes here as we see actually Arbois going very slowly on the run into Lecom. I think he did have to go off track to complete the move. Oh, contact with Giovannini, and Giovannini's out of control as he slides across the runoff there. And that was a very unpredictable move from William Giovannini. And yeah, Arbois will not thank him for that one. Look for this one there.
Just, I think it was a little bit over the edge by Giovannini. Oh, he steers like to the right.
He clearly didn't see Arbois in time, because he was going into a gap that was constantly closing as he tried to thread the needle there. So yeah, Giovannini, very, very brave there. There's Arbois. He's got going again in 15th position, so he's lost a lot of ground, fallen out of the points, well and truly as a result of that. Back where Thomas Lydon is. Now, Lydon, by the way, went into the pits because he was surfing a drive-through from the last round. I think for causing that big crash at the start in Qatar on the first lap, and avoids a crash with Arbois as he goes up into P15 there. So the Pole, who's had a bad round, but he's still, I think, joint 3rd in the championship with Burnt. Desperately needs to limit the damage here, doesn't he, by getting back into the top 10 and scoring at least a handful of points then. So Lydon at least is quite quick in the Lexus. As we see there is Michi Hoyer And Hoyer, impressively, starting to catch our top 3 here. He's not far behind his fellow BMW hybrid driver and great friend and stream buddy, Jene Simoncic. So I wonder if Mitchie's going to be like, I'm faster here, Jene. Maybe you should let me have a go at Dario Mueller here. I don't think Jene would be particularly receptive, but it's worth a try, getting on the blower.
Yeah, for sure, but I don't think Simoncic is really looking forward to take any, to compromise any of his positions right now. He's still in the fight for maybe the win. He's just 8 tenths behind Imolo, who is just 9 tenths behind Ercan. So it's all to play for all of these 3. And of course, Miki Hoyer is closing in on those, on the podium running positions. So everything to play for these 4 fellows.
Here's Benani, continue to try and make his way back up the order. He almost got alongside Farinelli into Pujon, but he goes wide on the exit, and you can see behind Benani is Giuseppe De Noia, who started at the back of the grid, has been keeping them very honest. Grigoletto has been slowly catching them, but not quickly enough. You can tell Farinelli in the BMW is really holding up these 2 Ferraris of Benani and De Noia here, because Benani was almost into the back of him on the exit of the Vanier chicane there as they go through Paul Frere corner. This is slightly further ahead. Adamu holding off Johannes Price for P11. Here comes the Peugeot of Price then, our championship leader in the gold split, looking to get a scalp in the form of our last season's gold split champion, I think, in Hypercar, Francesco Adamu, funnily enough. Adamu early on the brakes, the Peugeot very, very late, but not far enough alongside to trouble the Ferrari just yet. Meanwhile, Benani almost pushing Farinelli along in this fight for 13th position here, and Farinelli is looking distinctly vulnerable at the moment. Benani seems to really be gaining confidence in these conditions as this race continues. Windscreen wiper is still going, so the rain must still be falling down. And I'm wondering here, by the way, Danny, in terms of the big picture, are we looking at everybody trying to do a non-stop race? Or is there going to be splash and dashes near the end? Everybody puts on fresh, wet tires, essentially, because the track's not drying up. The wets are going to keep wearing, and I'm not certain they're going to be in best condition by the end of this one.
That's for sure, but I think everyone is going to try and at least try to make a non-stop happen. But of course, a splash and dash, like you already mentioned, is an option as well. But for this to happen, you need to really try to squeeze every tenth out of the second to really make this sort of, it's not an undercut, it's really a extra pit stop somewhat work to really, yeah, get an advantage by doing this. But I think maybe it's a safer option to really just go through to the end and maybe try to fuel save enough to do so eventually.
Yeah, absolutely then. Leon Byrne, by the way, up front, still 8 tenths behind Nicolas Hoopen, who's defended well. It's not made a big enough mistake for him to take advantage of, but here comes Giovannini then. After his previous maneuver, he's hoping this one will be a bit cleaner. Is that Remy Delorme that's catching them in the background as well? And P11 round the outside goes Giovannini, and Schorneck finds himself caught very, very early in the braking zone for bus stop chicane there. So the Swiss driver down to 10th then. Delorme then from, I think, 14th on the grid is up to P11, and him and Giovannini, the two chewing their way through the bottom end of the duty-free point scorers then. So he's ahead of Seb Wunsch now as we cut back to the lead fight here, and Ercan under a lot of pressure from Dario Mulo, the Turkish driver, after that fantastic start in car 101. The Cadillac still leading and looking to try and become another new winner in the Platinum Split this season, but he's going to be under tremendous pressure from Dario Mulo. And for Imulo and Simoncic, they will know Grigoletto outside the points at the moment. This is a big opportunity for Imulo especially, but also Simoncic, to get back and gain some big ground in the title fight, because I think Grigoletto pulled over 10 points ahead of Imulo going into this one after Qatar. Over Radion they go, and you can see in the background Hoyer falling a bit further back from our top 3 as their pace has increased a little bit, and Hoyer might have to start worrying about House and Gillison not far behind him as well if he can't make impression on this battle. But now Simoncic, the BMW's got really decent straight line speed, doesn't it? Because Simoncic down the end of the Kemmel Straight is almost within touching distance at the back of Imulo's Ferrari essentially. So I wonder if Jene is trying to do a sort of dress rehearsal for a movie he's planning a bit later on. If he's been doing typical Jene Simoncic strategy, saving tyres for an all-out attack later on and trying to steal victory from Imulo and Ercan, or if he's genuinely just trying to push and keep up with them. at this phase?
I think this meaning to like closing on and making a move down the end of the race or the end of this is surely something that Simončić is trying to do, because Simončić is really one of the really technical and strategists out of this series, and of course in LMU in general, because I've had a talk with Lexi. When you're competing in these kind of competitions, you really have to be not only familiar with the car and track, but also with the simulation, which Janis Simončić, Michi Hoyer, and I think generally everyone who's competing here really does. Like, you have to know this simulation by heart and know how, and know like exploits, how you can maybe find a few hundredths of a second, maybe tenths of a second, to gain an advantage to your competitors or to be on par with your competitors.
Here they go, they're about to lap the GT3 traffic, I think, any moment now. As you can see, that big wall of spray that they're approaching of the GT3 back markers then. And this is a big opportunity then for Simončić. So annoyed to lose pole position on the first lap after putting all that hard work in tricky conditions. He just gets slipstreamed by Ercan and Imulo. And you can tell he's desperately trying to hold on as now. Simončić up the inside of... That looks like a 14th place GT3 then that goes out of the way. They're about to lap Michel Rodriguez then, who's not far ahead of him. Is Clement Arbois, of course, who's had his fair share been pinballed about, I think, in these wet conditions, and he's going to be lapped by Hoyer going on the exit of original Rowdy on all. Nearly contact between Rodriguez and Imulo, but luckily disaster avoided. Ercan flashes his lights at the GT3s ahead of him to let them know that he's coming here, but Arda Ercan, crucially, is getting a small buffer now ahead of Imulo. He's getting a more opportunity to pick them off before Imulo and Simončić arrive on the scene. You can see the front brakes in Simončić, even in the pouring rain, glowing red hot here as everybody pushes the limits, because this is the crucial phase. Nobody wants to be stuck behind the GT3 for an extra corner and see their chance of gaining a place disappear in front of them. Around the outside of William Giovannini goes Simončić, and he's left just enough room there, luckily, on the exit of Bruxelles there, and into Speaker's Corner. As we see here is Bonner House, who's really started to gain on Michi Hoyer in all of this traffic here. And Bonner House, it must be said, negotiating traffic has always been a bit of a strength of his in endurance race. One of his many strengths, it must be said, in his glittering career, which is why, no doubt, Team Redline have re-signed him again to their services. But our attention really on our leaders here. Mulo around the outside of, I think that's Valentin Barrier. They've just lapped there, and it seems all of them very, very evenly matched through the traffic, because nobody's gained or really lost ground at all then. 39 minutes left to go, so we're 20 minutes into this one. Simončić has got the most spray to deal with, because he's third in a free car fight for victory, essentially, in the pouring rain. But the windscreen wipers have stopped, interestingly, so 40 minutes left to go. If it doesn't rain again, there is time for it to dry out, but it really depends what the weather decides to do, doesn't it, Danny? It can be very unpredictable. At Spa, as late on the brakes comes Simončić. That forces Imulo to get late on the brakes to almost scare Ercan off the road, but so far, somehow, none of them cracking under the pressure from each other.
Spa dance really proved us that the weather here is unpredictable. Same in the virtual world as it is in the real world. And yeah, Simončić really in a visibility-wise very difficult position, running right behind Imolo and as well as behind Ercan, so he really gets all the spray from both of the hypercars out of near distance up his windshield wiper, so it's really difficult to see. As we see a battle for P1 and P2 really unfolding now.
Here we go. From the spray comes Ercan, but Imulo try to go around the outside, and that's the Lexus teammate there of Ercan. But around the outside goes Imulo into Lecom. He's going to steal the lead there. Ercan is swamped, and here comes Simončić to the outside as they go on the exit of Lecom. They bang wheels. Oh, it's very, very physical between the two, but Ercan has got the inside, and there is Artyom Manisha right in the way of Janis Simončić through Bruxelles there, right when he didn't need him. And there we go, Dario Imulo taking advantage of the traffic and getting into the lead there. So this is absolutely crucial for the man second in the championship to be taking full advantage of all this, while Grigoletto is still yet to catch up to the very back of the hypercar field. Yes, Simončić again thwarted in this attempt to get into the front two positions.
Yeah, it's going to be the
Thoughts on
same
that,
thing
Daniel?
again. Oh, sorry. Yeah. It's going to be the same thing again for Simonjic, of course. He's not interested if it's Imolo or Ercan in front of him. He's just trying to get somehow past both of them and really trying to. He's a driver who's looking for the best result possible. As we see, Bono is squeezed almost on the onto the gravel here by the Corvette. Running in P5, just closing on Hoyer. Has he been all the traffic period long?
Yeah, that was LT on Manisha again. I think he just came upon Manisha at the wrong moment there because Manisha was desperately trying to stick as close to the racing line as possible. And unfortunately, Bonnerhouse caught it, I think, quicker than he anticipated. Oh, and Simonjic nearly hits the back of Ercan there as our top three are really bunching up into the bus stop. In comes Leon Burnt from P2 there. So that's really interesting. He's the first of our GT3s to pull the trigger then. So Ruben will get some breathing space. And finally, our Hypercar leaders will deal with the GT3 back for the first time. They're quite spread out in these conditions, aren't they? So it's quite extended, several laps of them having to fight against these moving chicanes and not get caught out, essentially, and double slipstream by the cars. Behind us there is James Baldwin, who has stayed in P9 where he qualified, and now Sven Gielhed, after being spun on the first lap, has caught up to him. So Gielhed is actually having a brilliant recovery here as we look at Patrick Schindler and Alexis Herndt, who are fighting over P3 now because of that pit stop for Leon Burnt. Then you can see where Burnt actually comes out in all of this, but Herndt is all over the back of the Lexus here. And what can the Door eSports driver do on the inside here? Herndt has got the run in the Aston Martin as they get out of the way of the Hypercar leaders. Herndt is through into P3. Can he get it late enough on the brake? Schindler's got the inside here in the turquoise machine, and they're still side by side on the exit of the con. Fantastic side by side racing, and it is going to be Schindler that just holds on. And look at, is that Thomas Lydon? No, Klinkmuller, sorry, going all up the inside of Alexis Herndt. They're trying to punish that mistake into the long right-hander of Bruxelles, and they're going to take Team Esports trying to lap them. That will no doubt spread them apart a little bit here too into No Name, and he does exactly that there, much of the frustration of Klinkmuller. But that was very ambitious from Nils Klinkmuller, and Alexis Herndt, far from gaining the position, now finds himself on the defensive all of a sudden.
Of course, it's always like a kind of trying to capitalize from all the mistakes done in front of you, and he has seek a chance of maybe trying to get the position, and there was zero hesitation from his side. He was trying to make it stick, and was just tiny a bit not able to do it.
Yellow flags, and Giuseppe De Noia is out of the race then, so that will be our first retirement then at almost half distance. So De Noia has come across with some over the curbs at Pouhon while trying to lap the GT3s, and he went backwards into the wall. Big impact there, and De Noia wasn't inside the points when that happened. He will still nonetheless be absolutely devastated with that after some really strong performances in the gold split. It's really not worked out for him. But back to Simonjic versus Ercan. Simulo now a second up the road. So Simonjic knows he needs to clear Ercan quickly because otherwise he could find himself in trouble. But Ercan, of course, has got his teammate Michi Hoyer 3 seconds behind them. So if he holds up Simonjic, it might actually play, the loyalties might be the other way around. The two Door eSports drivers might work together rather than Simonjic and Hoyer.
Of course, but Ercan has his own race to do, of course, and he's, I think, not really, he's not finished with the idea of finishing P1 because he has been leading the race for a couple of laps already and now is running right behind Imodo, and he's all eyes on him right now. So there has to be some kind of mistakes happen to him to play the team game just yet.
Yeah, I think you're probably bang on the money on that one. But the race continues then, and we see Klinkmuller desperately trying to get the run on Alexis Herndt once again, but it is a question of getting a bit closer than that, I'm afraid, and the two Aston Martins are very, very evenly matched. But of course, what also isn't helping is that the Lexus is giving Alexis Herndt a bit of a tow here. So yeah, Patrick Schindler, who won in Sebring, didn't have a whole lot of luck in Qatar, still got a couple of points. So Schindler's title hopes aren't completely over yet, and he is ahead of all of his title rivals, apart from Ruben, of course, who is now 10 seconds up the road of Manisha. Where did Leon Burnt emerge from the pits? That's what I am interested in terms of the GT3 battle. There he is in 14th then. So has he changed tyres or has he just put more fuel in? Because I believe we don't have any way of knowing that from the on-screen graphics, unfortunately. So I believe, given where he's appeared, I think he may have changed tyres to a fresh set of wets then. It'll be interesting to see if he can start undercutting, essentially, Nicholas Hoopen at this phase of the race. And look at those rear brakes. They're absolutely being put through their paces there through Bruxelles then. So yeah, Leon Byrne absolutely pushing to keep the net lead of the race within his hands. And there is one of his title rivals, Remy Delorme, still yet to break into the top 10. And that is where the points are scored. So Shorneck is the thing separating him from getting a few points out of this so far. So Delorme needs to find a way through. And if he can't do it on track, we'll have to do it through strategy. So 31 minutes left to go then, Daniel. And Dario Mulo has had a good lap here. He's nearly 2 seconds ahead of Chan, who is really under pressure from Simoncic in the lead of Hypercars. As we see Klinkmüller and Hearn are about a tenth apart from each other at the present moment. There we go, Klinkmüller up the inside into the bus stop there. So Hearn made a tiny mistake, and that was all the invitation that Klinkmüller needed. The German up into P4, crucially. And we'll have to see if that's actual P4 and a net P5 once the pit stop filter out and Leon Byrne emerges within this pack, essentially. But yeah, certainly Nicholas Hoopen has got a big gap to the rest of the front runners that are yet to pit. 11 seconds to Artyom Manisha there. And now Hearn is, Klinkmüller, sorry, is through on Hearn. Could Patrick Schindler find himself under attack from behind rather than just following Manisha around? So that's the moment where you see something emerging in your mirrors from the spray and suddenly you start to get a bit concerned.
Sure, and that's of course what's not
Yellow
the case
flags.
with Hoopen. Oh yeah.
Not sure what that's about, Interlecon. Or it might just be the rain.
Yeah, it could be, yeah. I mean, Hoopen is now having no real pressure applied by anyone in front of him, but we see the gaps fluctuating a bit, but I think it's just game-wise. We see Nicholas Hoopen does not have any car in particular near, so he's really just driving his own race, not having to drive any defensive lines or something. He's really just focusing on trying to get the best lap times or maybe to fuel save a bit, so to just drive his own race and not be copied by any other cars trying to chase him down here. So that's maybe very beneficial to him. But of course we see Bernd, who is supposedly pitted for new tires, who should drive a very, very strong pace right now. And yeah, Hoopen was trying to everything to not get undercutted by him by any chance.
Yeah, so just a reminder of the championship standings in GD3, because I've not been really keeping track of this too closely, but Marin Bessier leads on 67 points. He's 11 points ahead of Remy Delorme. This man still yet to pass Elias Shorneck for that final point. Thomas Leiden, who served that drive penalty, is a little bit further behind. He is still in third on 43 points, equal with Leon Berndt, who, as we know, is 14th on the road at the moment, but may well be in the net lead potentially. Patrick Schindler is still 5th on 41 points. And then is Nicholas Hoopen, a race leader currently on 37 points. So he's 30 points off the lead in the championship. And yet with Bessier in 6th and Delorme out the points, we cannot rule Hoopen out in this championship whatsoever. I think any of our top 6 could well walk away with this one at the end of the season, even with this and one more round to go.
For sure. And of course, Nicholas Hoopen has already one drop round to his account. In contrary of Marin Bessier and Remy Delorme, who does not. Both have not been dropped around, which you of course have to do in the regulations of the VMS series in all splits. So that puts him like a tiny advantage. It's not a big advantage, but for now, Hoopen has a great cards to play and to be a big role for the championship battle.
Keep your eyes on that gap to Berndt. Berndt has already halved the gap to Arbois. In front of him as here comes Delorme up the inside on the run into La Source there. It wasn't a great exit from Elias Shorneck. He's defended well, but his defensive 10 position comes to an end, at least for the time being. And now Delorme has got to make sure he nails the run out of Origin Radion onto the Camel Straight here. And he doesn't give Shorneck a chance to slipstream his way back up the inside. They go nose to tail through the wet, and Delorme just about keeps it on track there on the exit there, but Shorneck is going to get an opportunity here. It's going to be super, super close between the two. Aston Martin's 10th position at stake. It may only be 1 point, but for Remy Delorme, he's had to fight so hard to get to this point, and Shorneck does have to yield then on the exit there. So I think Remy Delorme has got potentially a higher speed, top speed setup on that Aston Martin then, as now we see up ahead. Next target is Michel Rodriguez, who's been fighting away with William Giovannini. So I think Rodriguez has tried to make a move into Lecombe on that same lap. Up the inside goes the McLaren. Giovannini late on the brakes, tries to hold it around the outside. That becomes the inside for the exit there, and Rodriguez having to yield there. But good effort from the Swedish driver there. It's good to see Rodriguez after scoring his first points of the season in Qatar in the McLaren 720S, admittedly not the car of choice. Suddenly it seems to have lit a fire underneath him, and he is used it to keep warm in all this pouring rain, to put it mildly.
Sure, and you know, we talked about Lexi as well with that. He's one of the people who retained his seat after running in that last season round. And of course, like you mentioned, the McLaren is not the ideal choice at the moment, but he's trying to really stabilize his results with the Qatar P6, six it was, yeah, 8 points scored, and now running the points once again. It's really been it's really stabilizing itself. His performances, and hopefully we'll try if we will keep on like that, and maybe we'll have a chance to retain a seat for next season as well.
Yeah, well, he's kind of finished like he always seems to do every season so far. He's finished in the top 10 in GD3 in the Platinum Split, hasn't he? So that always gives you the opportunity to come back if you so choose. Meanwhile, let's look at the standings in Hypercar very briefly. Not a lot of change. Imulo extended the gap to 2.3 seconds over Erchan, who's still keeping Simoncic 9/10 in arrears, with Hoyer 4th and Bono House in 5th, just holding up Gillison. De Buono has actually caught up to that 5th place battle, as well as his Rodriguez gearing up for another assault on William Giovannini. The Italian leaves the door open, and through goes Rodriguez at La Source there, and now they've got to make the long run again through the pouring rain. The rain did start up again, in case I didn't mention earlier, but yeah, you can tell here this is going to be very treacherous. Then Giovannini gets as close as he can in the Aston Martin against his resurgent looking orange McLaren in front of him, but Rodriguez has nailed the exit there, and he's surely going to disappear up the road unless Giovannini has got some sort of secret weapon to make the car go that little bit faster there. And it seems the Aston Martin does not have anything to respond there, so Rodriguez is up into P8 then. And now Giovannini might have to worry about the chasing pack, the car of Delorme behind him then, as we look at Dario Mulo. 3 seconds to the good now. He has absolutely nailed this race. Jumped Simoncic at the start, jumped Erchan in the traffic. So the key moment is going to be when they start to lap the GD3 traffic for the second time, isn't it, in this race essentially, which we're not far away from either.
Traffic is always a big thing, of course, at Spa as well, in the tricky second sector, which is of course very technical with all the corners, where really some GT3s really may block you, or it can be very beneficial but also disadvantage in the fight, for example. But as like you mentioned, Bono Hoyes is someone who has really been capitalizing on these kind of traffic occasions, so we might see something similar in the second period of traffic. Yeah.
Oh, yellow flag somewhere out on track. Also, what's helping Bono House is that Gillison behind is under attack from De Buono, as Farinelli has hit the wall at the top of Eau Rouge and Radion. So coming through, he must lose it over the curb quite early then. No, there we go. He gets a tank slapper on and is sent into the barrier at high speed. Rotates around, just avoided by Bernani and by Grigoletto then. So that puts Grigoletto into P14 then. But still, it's going to be difficult to see Fabio Grigoletto scoring any points at the end of this one, the way things are going with 23 minutes to go. Farinelli is still in the race, but the car is crapping horribly, and he is surely heading back to the pits for repairs before too long.
Surely with this damage, there's just no point in really driving it. I mean, his rear axle is really broken completely. His car's really sideways all the time. As we see Adrian Erchan being chased down by Yemar Simoncic through Blanchimont. There you go.
The key thing about that, Daniel, is the circuit is not getting better. The tyres are wearing, the rain is getting worse, and there's less and less grip out there. So any mistake here, your race could end in a heartbeat at a high-speed corner like Pouhon or La Source. As we see Leon Buck coming in for a second time, and that's definitely not a scheduled stop. Dear, dear, the man equal with Schindler in the fight for fourth in the championship. He started this race on pole position, was running P2 early on, made that early stop, and now it is all starting to fall apart from him, because surely he's going to be much too far behind when he emerges from this second stop here, and it could be that even the GT3s are all trying to go to the end there.
It's Niklas Hulm, of course, in a very, very good position now, leading by 14 seconds of Otto Manisha in the Corvette. So I think that's Bernd's chance on competing for the victory essentially gone. And I think the points are also very unlikely now, because he's yet sitting in the pit lane and not really gaining on any driver.
Something more terminals happen then to poor Leon Bernd. So the Porsche charge is over, sadly, and a wet evening that promised so much for Leon Bernd will unfortunately not be rewarded. We see Gillison lapping Thomas Leiden, who is desperately trying to overtake the fellow Lexus in front of him, of Sebastian Wunsch for P14 here. And yeah, the pole, it's been another difficult race in a row for Thomas Leiden here, and it's going to be, with that early drive-through, it was always going to hurt him. But yeah, especially in the rain at Spa, when you lose ground early on, it may be one of the easiest circuits to overtake on, but it's certainly very, very tough to make good progress up the order unless you have got incredible car control and confidence and grip, which is in very short supply here, it seems, as we see Sven Gielhed closing on the back of Kobe Chan in the fight for P8 then. So Gielhed is one of those drivers who has been recovering from a really, really difficult first lap after being spun out. And yeah, Kobe Chan is on his hit list of victims to pick off here. And oh, look at the rear tires. They're struggling over the curbs on that Valkyrie here. So Gielhed here has really got to pick his moment, and the Cadillac should have a good chance of getting into the top 8 here.
Yeah, Sven Gielhed really been on the charge ever since his True Bolshman go.
And we also saw Barrier and Bessier fighting over P6, our championship leader, in trouble with Valentin Barrier all over the back of him in the fight for P6 and GT3. So they had a fight into last source, and Barrier not quite able to make it through there. So Bezier holds on to P6 by the skin of his teeth, and by the end of this season he could desperately need that, because a lot of his main rivals, like Nicholas Hupen, like Patrick Schindler, are all looking to gain ground. As all, there we go, Gielhed swerving around on the approach into last source. They're desperate to pick off Kobe Chan, and Chan, who's I think a bit sick of being picked off and losing positions in this race, is now going to defend that one quite stoutly, isn't he? As up for as long as possible. But here they come, more GT3s to lap. I think that's Giovannini being picked off there, and to the outside comes Gielhed. Is he going to be late on the brakes? It is. There we go. I think it's BMW versus BMW, isn't it? Because I think that is Hoyer versus Simic. Sorry, I'm getting my Dora eSports cars mixed up. So yeah. This is Michi Hoyer, who is taking advantage of the traffic. Simic looks 3 seconds behind Chan now, who's caught up to Emulo quite rapidly, as we see Thomas Leiden getting well out of the way there. But yeah, oh no, that's Bernd, I think, coming out the pit to lap down on everybody else that's getting out of everybody's way. Yeah, luckily, no harm done, but something bad must have happened to Simic. He must have made a mistake of being held up by the traffic to lose 3 seconds to Ercan, and I think Emulo himself has made a mistake to lose the gap he had over Ercan as well. So now we've got Emulo versus Ercan and Simic versus Hoyer here, as we also see Gielhed right behind Kobe Chan. And don't forget our three-way fight for second between Manisha, Schindler and Klinkmuller, which of course all of our leaders will have to negotiate pretty much at the same time as well. There is Manisha, who's doing a fantastic job in treacherous conditions. 18 minutes left to go, and Patrick Schindler is all over the back of him. The reigning VMS Platinum GT3 champion then, and you can see how wet his windscreen is, that you can barely see anything behind that Corvette then, but he has got to find a way through. Eitan Manisha, less experienced at this level, but gaining confidence. These wet conditions are absolutely what he loves driving in and what that Corvette absolutely excels in as well. So Schindler has got to pick his moment here. He's going for the inside into La Source, but he's not far enough alongside. And you really need to commit very, very early if you're going to pull that one move across. And Schindler, all the time he's being held up by Manisha, it plays into the hands of Klinkmuller, who's been one of the bigger gainers in the wet here. So we have got Aston Martin catching Lexus catching Corvette then, as we see Marin Bessier has been passed by Valentin Barrier in all of this. Bessier down to P7, and that's bad news for the championship leader, as Barrier continuing to impress as he's been doing so far this season in the gold split, but a good exit out of Bradion and onto the Camel straight from Marin Bessier. Where is he going to pull out to try and retake that crucial P6? He can't see anything at the end of the straight, but through comes the BMW Hypercar, and that's going to block Bessier's path. So Barrier holds on into Lecom, and now he's got Michi Hoyer letting himself through as well. So yeah, this second phase of GD3 traffic has been gainful for some and quite costly for others, isn't it, Daniel? As the saying goes, traffic giveth and traffic taketh away. As there is Kobe Chan, he's been picked off by Gilhead, and now Baldwin in the Ferrari behind wants a piece of him as well. So James Baldwin, who's been sort of fighting for 9th and 10th throughout this race, is desperate to pick off the Valkyrie.
And like you mentioned, traffic is always like a kind of randomized thing, which may advance you or may not. And here we come, James Baldwin behind Kobe Chan, as Chan being passed just now by Sven Gilhood, who's been on the charge all race long, ever since he was spun into the comms on the first lap. So really a great and astonishing recovery drive from him so far.
Absolutely, I don't disagree with that whatsoever, and especially after Gil was disconnected from what looked like a top 4, top 5 potentially position in Qatar. It's so crucial for him to fight back here, isn't it? And good to see, despite not qualifying all that well and being in a bit of a sandwich in La Source in the first lap, which does tend to happen in fairness. He has absolutely fought back tremendously. Dennis Hoyer is within half a second of Simoncic once again, as Schindler continues to pressurize Manisha as well, and the two battles joined on track right at the same time, as in comes Artyom Manisha. So there we go, and he's been followed in by Klinkmuller, I believe, in the Aston Martin. So there we go, 15 minutes to go. They are putting in some fuel there, so those who have not been saving, this is where they will be punished. And here comes Baldwin then, looking for a way through in the spray, trying to follow Gilhead past Kobe Chan, and Kobe Chan does not want to make this easy for James Baldwin, the McLaren Shadow winner, wasn't he? And winner of many British GT and 24-hour endurance events in real life as well. He's had so much success with some big name organizations, and now he's fighting against one of the youngest drivers on the grid in Kobe Chan, who has certainly made a big impression in a short time here. Pole position last time at Qatar, and he was top 4, top 3 in the grid, wasn't he, at the start of this one as well. So the 1 lap pace Kobe Chan has definitely got in spades, as now we see Marin Bessier with the pit stop, of course, of Manisha ahead of him. He's up to P5, so he's gained a place in all of this, but he's still behind Valentin Barrier, who blocks his path. Barrier, I think, named very aptly in this scenario, as he is very much keeping Bessier at bay since getting past him there. So you see Johannes Price lapping the two of them. It's interesting that Michi Hoyer has looked a bit quicker than Simoncic. Of course, they're very evenly matched, same car between them, but I don't think Hoyer has really looked like making a move just yet. And I suppose he's got that 2-second gap to Bono House. He can afford to sort of be cagey, especially if they're trying to save fuel and virtual energy for the end. We've not really looked at virtual energy at all in this race. I guess because it's so wet, we just have not seen a whole lot of it used, admittedly. But yeah, it could be interesting to see what the standings are on that front. Indeed, there we go, 20 and 22%. So Emulo's used a little bit more than Erchan and Simoncic and Hoyer behind him, which is actually kind of interesting. And Grigoletto's got 25%, so he is hoping to pick off a Dami Price and at least get close to the points and hope somebody ahead hits trouble, because I think Grigoletto is almost certainly going to have to drop this round. Because at the moment, Emulo, who is about 11 points behind him, is going to have to gain 25 points on him in the standings. And even Gilhead in 8th is going to gain a couple of points too, not to mention Simoncic, who was 4th on 40 points as well, just 5 behind Gilhead. So that big gap that he had going into this one has very much been rendered academic now, as here's Baldwin all over the back of the wide, low-slung Valkyrie, up the inside into La Source. He comes, he slides the rear out, and it looks like he's completely overheating, as we see Huben pit from the lead. And Kobe Chan holds on by the skin of his teeth, but that was very aggressive from Baldwin there. I think he just lost rear traction right when he needed it the most, Daniel.
Yeah, it was really like a lazy slide, like all of the, he completely lost any grip at all. So really just was like a passenger in this
moment he hit the brakes, it just went on him.
Yeah, it was really like a kind of a drift. He was just a passenger and was praying not for Kobe-chan not to hit him and cause some damage, but Kobe-chan has avoided him quite phenomenal in this case. And of course, James Baldwin is again trying to pass this really wide Valkyrie of Kobe-chan, who's been a defense master all race long.
Okay, so there is Nicholas Hoopen, who has emerged from his stop. Because of the gap he had, he is P2 with only Patrick Schindler ahead of him. So again, as you said, this is looking really, really promising for Hoopen, who has had his fair share of struggles since switching to DD3 in the Aston Martin. There you go, you can see he is pit, Manisha is pit, and he is some distance behind Marin Bessier. There you go, about 1.76 ahead of Michelle Rodriguez though, and you see Klinkmuller is also pit, so yeah, there's a potential here that the likes of Schindler, Hurt and Barrier and Bessier could all get undercut here if they're not careful. Snasky, Nashvili and Shorneck fighting over what's now P11, but here is Baldwin. First attempt to overtake Kobe Chan, unsuccessful. He's only got 11 minutes more, so let's see what James Baldwin, who was on the podium a couple of times last season. Oh, I think Valentin Barrier has hit trouble because he's fallen behind Marin Bessier. I think he must have had a spin somewhere. So Marin Bessier, crucially, is up to P4 then. So great for our championship leader to limit the damage. And there is Barrier. Daniel, talk us through what happened. Did he make contact with Banani? Yes, he did. At Puon.
Oh yeah, that was not optimal. I mean,
yeah, Barrier was on the inside and Banani was going around the outside. So it's either one of two things. Either Banani was too tight or Barrier understeered into him. Because unfortunately, the angle, it cut away. They disappeared out of shot. And by the time we cut back to them, they'd already made contact. So we missed the actual point of impact there. But speaking of point of impact, Simic still right. He's caught right back up to Erchan again, and Emulo is once more pulled away to the tune of 3 seconds here. So there's been a bit of an accordion effect, isn't there? The rain has stopped, and then it started again, and then it stopped and started again. As wide goes Simic, and he cuts across the ground. Did he gain a bit of an advantage there? I hope it's not a lasting advantage. He was within 9/10. He comes out of the corner. Let's see, 9/10 behind. So Yerne has actually timed that about right, and the amount he's lifted off there. But that really shows you even a man of Yerne Simicic's caliber in these conditions is really feeling the pressure here as he runs out of time to make the move on Arda Erchan, who's looking to match his best result in the VMS Platinum Split after finishing P2 in Sebring.
I mean, this has been really a back and forth all around the P1 to P4 in the Hypercars. It was really, everyone was within half a second of each other, but then the traffic came, then again split, the gaps extended, and it's been like that for the whole race. Oh, as we see Fabio Pugliese having a big, quite a moment out of Malmedy, and through Bruxelles they go.
Malmedy, really, that's what that corner scored. I've just been calling it Bruxelles the whole time. But you're right, that's what the corner after Lake Corner scored. But yeah, here comes Fabio Grigolotto. Great to see. After all the misfortune he had right at the start of this race, he hasn't given up, of course, and that's why he's the reigning champion here. So he gives Christian Banani a bit of a hard time. I think Banani would just like having someone to race against here, because he's been otherwise a bit lonely for the last half hour or so, since all his battling was really at the start. Symmetry is still within 6/10 of Emulo, and there are the trees. Very, very wet as well, but this is where the action is then, as Arda Erchan, has he got the tyres? They're both very, very similar when it comes to virtual energy, so it's really a case of, is the Cadillac better at this phase of the race than the BMW? Both Daytona prototypes, of course, whereas Emulo in the Ferrari has actually lost the second to Erchan on this lap, so I think there was a mistake from Emulo, or potentially he's got 2% less in the virtual energy. It could be that Emulo is just trying to make sure he gets the end. In fact, he extends the gap back out to 3 seconds, so there was nothing to worry about, and he should be okay to get to the end on 13%. Everybody looking like in Hypercar that they've saved enough fuel to get to the end. It's GD3 where they're getting a bit marginal. Even in this heavy rain with extended braking distances, you can lift and coast a bit easier because you're just going slower, period. It is easier to save fuel, but that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody's going to get to the end without a pit stop. We've seen about 4 or 5 of our GT3s decide to split the difference and pit about halfway or with 20 minutes or so to go, haven't they? Whereas everybody else is desperately going to try and eke the fuel out. And could that be what Patrick Schindler is hoping for here, as he's got the gap to Hoopen. Hoopen is about 6 seconds behind, but closing by, quite a rate of knots here. He's gaining about a second a lap on Patrick Schindler. So it's going to be close come the finish. Schindler, if he's got the field to last, he may as well stay out here. And barrier pits. So after losing out to Bessier with that spin, the contact with the hypercar, Valentin Barrier has decided he has not got the field to get to the end either. So Manisha is back into P5 then.
Best case for Schindler if he would be able to finish the race, of course, because Huben had a tremendous lead going running in P1, then having the pit stop, and now running just 6 seconds behind Schindler. But if Schindler can make it stick, and if Schindler has enough fuel to somehow drag his car, his Lexus, to the checkered flag, there will be, of course, a superb performance by him and the first double victory of this season so far in LMGP3.
Yeah, James Baldwin, meanwhile, is discovering that this Kobe Chan kid is actually rather good, isn't he? In these tricky conditions, Kobe has, as I said, resolute not to lose enough position as they both get a bit of a wiggle on out of Paul Frere, the famous corner named after the Belgian sports car journalist and, of course, a Ferrari driver here back in the day, 1950s and 60s. As now we see Jerne Simoncic has got the run up the inside, but that's a closing gap, and Jerne knows it. He backs out at the last second, and that camera angle really made that look, I think, a lot more dramatic than it was there, as Arda Ercan pretty firmly close to the door on Jerne Simoncic. What's your view on this, Daniel?
Yeah, like you said, it looked kind of dramatic and really like you see here, tragic, because Simoncic had like his rear tires locking a bit. He had a bit of aquaplaning on his rear tire, so it really looked like he was like out of control, but in reality it wasn't that dramatic as it seemed from this camera angle.
But look at that, Emulo has lost a whole second on this lap.
Yeah.
Because he's only 2 seconds ahead of them now. So with 5 minutes to go, is Emulo in a little bit of trouble here? And are we going to see a freeway fight for the lead once again? Then Arda Ercan certainly hopes so, because he's been defending like crazy to keep Simoncic at bay. He's done such an immaculate job in tricky conditions. The only really one mistake was faltering over the GT3 traffic that let Emulo make that move on him down the Kemmel Straight then. And part of that was really just bad luck of coming upon them at the wrong moment there. Speaking of Kemmel Straight, up the inside of Christian Bonani goes, is that Adamu then into 12th position then? So Francisco Adamu tried to help out his teammate Fabio Grigoletto, I think, by holding up Christian Bonani here. Because I think Adamu was already ahead of both of them, wasn't he? So he's dropped back and gotten involved in it, unless Adamu's just made a mistake in the pouring rain, in which case fair enough. But yeah, I think Grigoletto is helpful to see a friendly face after so long. As Jerne Simoncic runs really wide out of Paul Frere there and nearly just narrowly avoids getting into the gravel there. But these final few minutes where it's so crucial not to slip up, and the pressure is only going to get worse from here, and Simoncic knows he is the hunter rather than the Hunter Ed, or the Ed Hunter, as in my case, because that's my name. So that's the 3 options he can be. As look at this, Ercan has got a bit sideways on the entrance into the bus stop, but doesn't lose out too much as there's a yellow flag somewhere ahead of them out on track then. 4 minutes to go then. Emulo, they should have got about 2 more laps to go. Is that Leon Berndt finally exiting the race? Was that Clement Arbois, I think, who is retired? I think it's Arbois, isn't it? As there is Marin Bessier, all in a fight against Alexis Herndt for P4. And I think Herndt is one of the drivers who has pit, hasn't he? Whereas Bessier has decided to stay out, and as a result has gotten onto the podium. So this is crucial for the championship leader. We know Huben and Schindler are going to gain on him here, but can he limit the damage and at least stay on the podium? And in fact, Herndt hasn't. Herndt has actually saved fuel on his own. Is now really giving Bessier in the similar Aston Martin a bit of a hard time, as here comes Farinelli, having repaired his car, coming through to lap them, I believe.
It's really a tremendous job by Marin Bessier, really playing out with his non-stop strategy call, recovering from what was, I think, a P10 qualifying, if I'm correct, now running again on the podium and really proving why he is leading the LMG3 championship so far.
Yeah, and meanwhile here is Marco De Borno trying to make the best of the Alpine here. The Alpine tends to be pretty solid at Spa, at least in the tries. Then again, Marco De Borno just about keeping two wheels on track there, and then clobbers the curb on the entrance into Buhon using the gutter line. But let's keep our minds out of the gutter and on the action on track then, as in comes Schindler from the lead. He couldn't get the field the last, and that is heartbreaking for him, but it gives the lead back to Nicholas Huben then, who's done an excellent job here. Marin Bessier is going to go through into P2, and Alexis Hurt now is onto the podium, but his chances of P2 aren't over yet with 2 minutes left to go, but that will be a soaring news to the heart of Marin Bessier now, who knows one of his key championship rivals has had to pit and will come out behind him, behind Artyom Manisha as well. Rodriguez also coming in from 6th position, so it's not going to be another fairy tale for the McLaren 720S then, as the orange car comes in for fuel, and he's even going to drop out the points here. This is bitter gall for Michel Rodriguez then. If the race was 1 lap shorter, that would have been a P6 for him.
Fortunately, again, going to be, I assume, no points scored on this occasion again, which really puts him in quite a not quite a good position for retaining his seat next season. Of course, with only 1 round to go after the Spa, it's going to be quite difficult for him to stay into the stay in the top 10 by any chance.
But there's any underdog that can somehow surprise us, it tends to be Michel Rodriguez, among others, of course. But meanwhile, look at our lead fight here. Simičić 4/10 now behind Arda Ercan, and that gives Emulo, who's 1.2 seconds up the road, a little bit of breathing space. But Emulo now, they're having to negotiate the duty-free traffic right at the end of the race here. And you can see barriers right in front of Ercan holding him up on the exit through Malmedy here, and Simičić knows this could be one of his final opportunities then. We're on what looks to be the final lap of the race, if I'm not mistaken here, and Jene Simičić has got to get as close as he can, has got to force Arda Ercan into a mistake here. He's been waiting so long for the mistake to happen, but Ercan has been inch perfect in defense so far. Meanwhile, it does look like Nicholas Huben, 9 seconds ahead of Marin Bessier, is going to win, as Alexis Hern is dropping back ever so slightly from Bessier. So I think Hern has realised he's running a bit low on fuel, as well as it looks like is that Leiden there. It's going to be lapped by both of them, just avoided in time on the exit Buhon by Simičić, who goes round the outside into Fania. That's incredibly bold, and there's more traffic ahead. Will it hold up Arda Ercan? Ercan sweeps around the outside. There's even more contact between them. The corners touch, and it's Ercan that's going to get up the inside, or is he? Still side by side they go on the final lap of the race. The clock has expired, and Simičić is going to be held up at just the wrong moment, but Ercan makes contact with the Aston Martin ahead of him, and Simičić almost having to pass off track there. This is incredible. Right at the death of the race, and Simičić refuses to give up. And whoa, what's happened? What's happened to the leader? Emulo is gone. Emulo must have run out of virtual energy, and this is now the fight for the lead. Going into the bus stop chicane, Ercan is going to take a shock victory hit, but late on the brakes up the inside. He hits the Aston Martin in front of him, and Simičić might have a last gasp run to the line. It's steep victory, no, but it spins in front of him. It's going to be Ercan that takes victory from Jene Simičić, with Michi Hoyer third, Bonnerhaus fourth, and Isaac Gillison fifth. Wow, what an unpredictable end to that race. Simičić so nearly stole it from Ercan, but Emulo, absolute heartbreak. I think that 2% deficit on virtual energy was what cost him there, Daniel.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, at the end of the second sector, we saw like a gap of 60 seconds from Emulo to to Ercan, which was of course raising some suspicion to me. But yeah, heartbreak for him, of course, to lose this tremendous performance, to lose his P1, his victory on the last lap. And I think it was due to...
that cost him the championship lead as well, because he was looking so good up until that moment there. And it can be the highs and lows of racing. You do a fantastic job, and then the race lasts that 1 lap too long. Just ask poor Kieran Prendergast, our first ever Platinum Split champion, who ran out of fuel while leading in the first ever race in VMS back at the start of the year. It feels so long ago now, given that we're in the middle of season 3, aren't we? But yeah, it's easy to forget. It was only back in January of this year, so LMU, it feels like it's been out forever at this point, doesn't it? Even though it's only been a few months since actual release then. But let's not take any attention away from this man. It may not be as dramatic a finish, but Nicolas Hoopen has made all the right calls here. He stole the race lead from Leon Bent at the start and was never really headed. Patrick Schindler gave it a good go, trying to get the field to last. Schindler will have to be content with 5th position. Marin Bessier, of course, is also looking to take a fantastic 2nd position to extend potentially his championship lead even further over Remy Delorme, who is only going to get home in, I think, 10th position. But here comes Hoopen then, about to take his first GD3 victory, where he's won in Hypercar, and he's also going to win in GD3. So him and Arda Erchan appropriately have the only 2 to win in both classes in the Platinum Split. And it's going to be a first win of the season for the Mustang. Nicolas Hoopen is victorious in the spray at Spa, but Manisha is right behind Hearn in a last gasp attempt to steal the podium. Can Artyom Manisha get the Corvette ahead? He's going to try and cut underneath, but the wheels spinning wildly. Alexis Hearn is going to hold on by the skin of his teeth, so we do get a close GD3 finish in the end. But for 3rd position, Alexis Hearn, my goodness, he was cutting that fine. But Manisha, whoa, what is it?
I think Manisha finished P3.
Oh, he got him. Did Hearn exceed his fuel and virtual energy, maybe? Oh, dear, that is heartbreak for Alexis Hearn. I thought he'd done it there, but you're absolutely right, Daniel. He has just been pipped. Luckily, it's only cost him 1 position. I think Schindler was a bit too far behind to take advantage.
And a quick note on Emolo. In the YouTube chat, some people have been referring to Emolo has suffered a game crash on the last lap.
No!
As it seems. So it wasn't even a virtual energy. It wasn't a deficit of the 2% virtual energy. It was solely a technical problem which caused him to lose P1, lose the victory, and lose his championship lead, which he retained.
And that was with 1 sector of the race to go as well. I'm amazed that I caught it, because I was still convinced up until a couple of corners to go that was the fight for 2nd and not for the lead. But there we go. Well, a dramatic day at Spa in the pouring rain, wet from the dry all the way to the finish. But after 24 laps in GD3, it's Nicolas Hoopen that is your winner. And I believe, is that our 6th different GD3 winner of the season? Because I think Bessier won the opener. We've had Schindler win in Sebring.
Yep, that's our 5th.
Hoopen win now. Delorme has, I think, got a couple of 2nd places, so he's a bad luck for him once again. And Thomas Lydon won Fuji, of course, as well. So yeah, there we go, different winner at every single event there. Marin Bessier, championship leader, consolidates a good recovery drive to P2. Manisha at the death steals P3 from an unlucky Alexis Hearn, who nonetheless defended very well. Patrick Schindler tried to stay out, tried to get the field to last, but unfortunately the race was 1 lap, or 2 laps too long, really, let's be honest. And Schindler, instead of winning, has to settle for P5. Niels Klinkmuller had to pit as well, but nonetheless takes a strong P6 ahead of Remy Delorme, who recovers from near the back of the grid to P7. William Giovannini, similarly from the very back of the grid, gets to P8. A bit of adventures for him, but nonetheless, more good points for the Italian reigning gold split champion. Then David Naskidashvili and Elias Shornek round out the point scorers. All 3 of those a lap down, along with Thomas Lydon. That early drive-through cost him dear. Could only finish 11th in the end ahead of Valentin Barrier. Sebastian Wunsch, another that didn't qualify well, ended up in P13. Michel Rodriguez, heartbreak on the last lap, having to pit at the start of it, dropping him out of 6th position. And then Leon Byrne, also heartbreak for him, with, I think he got a penalty, and all sorts of things seemed to go wrong for Leon Byrne while he was fighting for the lead in P2 in that race. And finally, only non-finisher in the GD3 standings is Clement Arbois, who was not in the points anyway, but nonetheless unlucky for the Frenchman. Moving on to Hypercar then, and wowee, it is Arda Erchan that takes his first ever victory, completely to the surprise of us and himself, no doubt, with Jene Simoncic just missing out despite a late charge. That was an exceptional final lap between the two, but the entire race, really, our top 3 of Emulo, Erchan, Simoncic were absolutely superb, and I think Dario Emulo has every right to feel absolutely gutted about that one, because he didn't put a foot wrong, and right at the end, his game is the instability of LMU let him down there, it must be said. Michi Hoyer gets onto the podium as a result, holding off Bono House, Isaac Gillison, and Sven Gielhed, who are all pretty close together, but not a whole lot of movement in those ranks. I think that's actually Isaac Gillison's best finish of the season. The joint best finish was Sebring, I believe. Sven Gielhed takes P6, as I mentioned. Then is Kobe Chan, promoted to P7, does hold off James Baldwin. So some good news for the Hong Kong resident, despite falling in the early stages out of the top 4. Then behind Baldwin, ran out of points, it's Marco De Bueno, who takes his 2nd points of the season, or his 1st in the Alpine since changing cars. And Johannes Price, our championship leader in goal split, takes the final point. So a good drive from the Peugeot driver. Christian Benani just misses out, and so too does the luckless Fabio Grillo, who I think somehow, inexplicably out of all of this, has held on to the championship lead. Francesco Adamu is 13th with Daniele Farinelli a lap down in 14th. Then it's Dario Mulo, our DNF, along with Giuseppe Di Noia. But yeah, Mulo, that's got to be one of the most heartbreaking finishes in Vienna. I think up there with Prendergast. Even Prendergast did at least get to finish P2 in that race, whereas Mulo doesn't get any points whatsoever, which feels incredibly cruel. But that is sim racing sometimes. You can do everything right and still not come away with victory. And there's the triumph, the brilliant drives, but there's also the heartbreak and the tragedy. And sadly, as a driver, that is a part and parcel of the game. So, Daniel, we've just got one driver in the waiting room who wants to be interviewed by us at the moment, and is our 3rd place finisher. So certainly, I think his 1st podium of the season, if I'm not mistaken, in the BMW.
No, he had one in Fuji.
He did. I forgot. No, he did. You're right. I forgot about that one because Emule won that one as well, sadly. But Michi Hoy, who was beaten by Emule that time, this time fortune favors him, and he gets the podium, his 2nd podium of the season, and richly needed as well. So let's hear what the new Door eSports driver has to say. So we're joined now by Mr. Michi Hoy, of course, our Season 1 Hypercar overall champion. Michi, congratulations on your 2nd podium this season in P3. A bit of an interesting race for you, of course. Very tight at the start behind you. And then you are in 4th for most of the race, trying to keep Yerne honest. There are a couple of times where Yerne hit trouble and you were all over the back of him. And then in the end, heartbreak for Dario Mulo on the last lap. His game crashed and you get promoted to P3 after keeping Bono House, Fabio Grigoletto, and Isaac Gillison behind you the entire duration then. So very tricky conditions, first of all. And to just survive the race and come away with a really strong result, that must be pleasing for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, you have to say condolences to Dario. Like, he drove an amazing race, clearly the fastest pace, best efficiency out there. And to hear that, technical issue meant his win taken away from him is just heartbreaking, especially after that race. It may have been only 1 hour of a race, but in those conditions, as you said, it was absolutely crazy. I almost lost it in lap 1 on the exit of No Name. I think I had like 2 or 3 tank slappers and somehow kept it together, kept the position, which was important to stay in P4. But as you said, it was a pretty intense race, especially with the rain kind of stopping in the middle, getting the race faster. So everyone's strategies was at risk. Was quite a lot of decisions that you had to do in the car that cannot be seen from the outside. And then eventually I was close to Yanni a couple of times. Sadly, traffic prevented a proper go for me. And the only time I think he suffered from traffic, he had like enough of a gap to me so that I can, not really do something. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's an amazing result. Amazing for the team, obviously, with Adan in P1, me in P3. Sven, sadly, who had his issue, but like, what a drive back to P6. Overall great result for us, huh?
Absolutely, as well. I know, obviously, since winning in Season 1, you've been so desperate to get another VMS Platinum Split title to your name, of course. One more event to go, and I think you're on 46 points now with the 15 you gained today. So I think you're sort of fighting Sven, essentially, for P4, maybe P3 with Yerne if things go really well. So is that where your head's at, or are you just thinking, I want to end the season on a high and get another win for Door Esports? You've seen Arda do it, so I assume that's got to be the target for the finale at Interlagos.
I mean, you're always gonna try to go for a win, right? Like that's the reason why you compete. Speaking about the championship, I'm not looking too much into it. Well, like obviously anything in the top 5 for the prize money meanings is great. If it is P6, I don't really care too much. Like the most important part is being in the top 10 to retain the seats and not go through the indignity of doing qualifying, which is, I think 85% achieved. You never know what's happening in the last race. You may score 0 points and the guy's out of the top 10 or whatever. I don't know what is the exact gap, but I think with 2 podiums, there shouldn't be a way that I should drop out of the top 10. If I'm going to be P3, P4, P5, I mean, the higher, the better, of course. But, at the end of the day, since we're not in the fight for the actual title, it doesn't really mean too much because, as you say, it's like the titles that's counting, and the first guy is the second guy is the first loser. And apart from that, it's just for the statistics. I think generally, obviously, it's great to be up there. It shows like the performance, despite we had not too great of a season in season 2, yet got P5. Now I had 2 races that were good, 2 races that were bad, and one media core one, and we're sitting 5th. So I think things are going all right, and I'm just want to finish the season as good as possible, potentially depending on how good the BMW is around Interlagos, with a chance for the win. Otherwise, for as much points as we can grab, of course.
I remember Yerna getting very, very well in the BMW and very nearly winning the first time when we went to Interlagos. So yeah, hopefully that bodes well for you as well, Mitchie. And congrats on the podium today. Another great drive by you. And thanks for coming to talk to us.
Thanks.
Thank you. Have a nice one.
Oh, sorry, Dan, I should have let you ask a question, but I
all
assumed
good.
we didn't have any more.
No.
And anyway, we've also got the winner waiting for us. So without further ado, Arda Ercan, for the very first time, he is a winner, not just in Hypercar for the first time, but he also won in the very first season of VMS Platinum in Sebring as well. So him and Niklas Hupen, who funnily today also won, are the only 2 to have that accolade to their name. So there's a nice little symmetry there. When Huben does well, Ercan seems to go well as well. But let's not keep our Turkish driver waiting any longer. Let's drag him in and hear from the victorious Door Esports driver. So we're joined now by the driver of the number 101 Cadillac, Mr. Arda Ercan. Arda, wow, first off, what a dramatic race. So many highs and lows for you, obviously. Slotting yourself into P2 at the start when Yene and Dario, I know you slid through the middle, didn't you, of both of them, and took the lead.
Yeah, I went through the middle.
And then, of course, a little bit of traffic allowing Dario to steal the lead, and you were then defending from Simitric all the way through, including that insane final lap where Yene was throwing all but the kitchen sink at you to try and get through. Very nearly did, but you just held on by the skin of your teeth. And then you cross the line to discover it's not P2, it's P1. That must be obviously horrible for Dario Emulo, who had a game crash. It wasn't really anything he could have done to prevent that, really. But for you didn't put a foot wrong yourself, really, and you've got to say that's a well-deserved victory. That you've been waiting so long for it. You've had quite a lot of bad luck in your VMS career over the past couple of seasons. So, yeah, to be basically the first person to win in both Hypercar and GD3. I know Nicholas Hupen will say he won about a minute after you and got the same feat, but nonetheless, that is yours. That's a record that you're going to keep forever as well, and that must be incredible. So, yeah, I've just summed up the race, but let's hear your point of view on it.
Well, first of all, I got it for Dario, obviously. He was leading comfortably, and it just final lap game crash is just terrible. Other than that, it was a really dramatic race. Like that lap 1 move, like my heart was pounding after that and during that.
Yeah, Yene was not giving up either at all, because he desperately tried to go up in the rail and stay as far alongside you as he could into Lecom on that first lap.
Yeah, it was a fuel save race for basically every hypercar out there. We were trying to stretch it to 60 minutes, and at some point the rain eased up, tracks started drying up, and I was curious if we had to ditch the fuel save and push, or not, but luckily the rain came back. After that, after first lap and Dario getting the lead from me thanks to traffic, it was relatively quiet until Yorne, I think, saved more energy than me, so he started attacking earlier. But luckily, yeah, I saved enough, could defend. That was a crazy final lap. We had some contacts, but I guess it's racing. It was a bit of a silly move in the bus stop chicane with the Aston, but yeah, it is what it is.
I did say, oh my god, I thought to myself when you brake late and there was the Aston right in front of you, oh my goodness, is Ardo going to throw it away at the final 2 corners of the race? And no,
yeah,
he
I
didn't,
thought
just
that
about held on.
many times during that braking though.
But wow. So good news for you, by the way. I believe you're now 49 points in the championship, so you're ahead of Michi Hoyer, and I believe ahead of Bonner House as well. So those are 2 big names, and you've been able to leapfrog them through this win with 1 round to go. So the fight for P4, P5 in the Hypercar Championship is really, really narrow, and obviously you've been gaining podiums before. You've been not far away from winning, but to finally cross it off, albeit obviously Dario leading by, what was it in that final lap?
It was 1.52 seconds, I think.
1.5. Yeah, you were slowly catching him again. So Dario just about had it in control until misfortune befell him. But take nothing away from you, it was still a very, very deserved victory. So does that mean going to Interlagos, the final round of the season, you're going to be that little bit taller in the cockpit?
Yeah, I feel that way. I'm not sure how the standings are exactly like right now, but yeah, I'm not going for anything less than the win again. I guess I'm happy to have a result like this with my debut with Falcon in VMS.
I've been calling them Door
So, yeah.
eSports, but they're also called Falcon. So I guess I better give the sponsor a shout out as well for you guys. Yeah, they picked some very, very good drivers, and you to get their first win in VMS again, another big achievement that you should very rightly celebrate. Then, so Danny, do you have any questions for our winner before we let him go?
No, I think you've asked every question that should be asked. You performed quite well. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Congratulations.
I wasn't even driving today, and I get the most praise from Daniel.
Congrats for your P1, of course, Arda, and yeah, hopefully we'll see somewhat some kind of replication of this performance in Interlagos for our final round.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Yeah, but anyway, thanks for coming to talk to us, Arda, and congratulations on a very, very well-deserved victory and on making history today in the VMS Platinum Split.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Have a nice evening.
Will do. Right, we've got one more driver that wants to talk to us. We seem overflowing in Hypercar drivers that want to talk to us, and it is the one, the only, Kobe Chan, who's waiting patiently to get his views of the race across. Let's hear from the Hong Kong man. So, Kobe Chan joins us now, straight fresh from the cockpit of the Provisional eSports Aston Martin Valkyrie. Kobe, a great qualifying. You got onto the second row of the grid. Was it P4, if I remember correctly?
Yep.
P4. And then a tricky start. You fall down the order a bit, but you fight your way back to, I think, P7 in the end, holding off James Baldwin, of all people. So that must have been interesting for you.
Yeah, my ass was burning, bro. It's like one in a lifetime experience to get pushed by the real life GTP racer. Like it was just very intense throughout the whole hour.
Yeah, he's not half bad in these sim racing either. It's part of why he ended up in the real cars. So yeah, a big favor in the cap for you to just hold him off, because James had a couple of goes, especially into La Source. I think he made a dive at one point where he just slid on the brakes and you were able to just cut back underneath him. So that must have been a satisfying feeling, seeing him just get crossed up like that.
Yeah, like I mean, like the whole race is like the Valkyrie is pretty good on corners, but like into the slow braking zones, like the grip just doesn't exist for the car. Like there's no force feedback or anything on my wheels, so like I really have to be very, very careful to not lock up my tires and just steer the car through the corners.
Yeah, exactly then. So, Kobe, let's just take an overall look with one race to go left in your first season in the VMS Platinum Split. And it really feels like you've come a very, very long way in a short period of time. P4 last time out after starting on pole in Qatar. Qualifying in the Valkyrie is getting better and better. And do you feel like you've come a long way, you've improved and learnt a lot in these last couple of months then, since you've been starting in this season?
To be honest, like I only started on LMU on like March or April, and so like I think I don't have that much hours compared to the other very fast guys in the grid. So I'm already very satisfied with my performance in this grid, and the places I can get in such a competitive grid in VMS Platinum.
Yeah, well, certainly you always stand out. People can hear you coming before they see you in their Valkyrie, even in the spray, well, especially in the spray, actually. But yeah, so final thoughts from me. Are you excited about Interlagos? Do you think that's a track that's going to suit the Valkyrie quite well? Plenty
As
of
long as
speed.
as long as there's no rain, yes. But if it's like today, then probably not.
I think you've had your fill of the rain then, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, like it's not like I can only do good in the drive, but like simply I can't control what's the condition in the race, right? So like I can only do my best every time on the track, no matter what's the condition like. Yeah.
Absolutely. Danny, do you have any questions for Kobe before we let him go?
We see on the broadcast quite a couple of times. You've been defending really well. You've been really putting your car, making your car as wide as possible, and making it like as wide as the track physically can be. Is this something you really have been practicing a lot on, or is this like something natural you're just talented in? Because it really appears to me that your defense is a very great strength of yours.
Yeah, I mean, even though I have short experience on LMU, but as you guys know, I have been competing on ACC for a very long time before, like such as competing in the SR Sprint and then in the FI Motorsport Games and a lot more of others very competitive ACC competitions. So like I think my racecraft is pretty decent actually. So more of what I can improve now is like to understand more how the car works in LMU, like how the setup works, how the physics works, especially how like the tire model and how the driving techniques are so different from ACC. So that's a lot. There are a lot for me to learn.
Indeed, there is. But you've impressed us, as we say, in a very, very short time already. So if you're getting better and better, then that's always a positive sign, Kobe. So thank you very much for talking to us. Well done at
Thank
getting
you.
P7 under tricky conditions with Baldwin practically pushing you along at points in that race. But nonetheless, you once again were supremely entertaining, Kobe. And always enjoy commentating on your performances. And best of luck for the season finale at Interlagos.
Thank you very much.
So then, as we let Kobe go, let's just remind everyone that season finale is the 7th of December. So yeah, get your early Christmas presents ready, everybody, because they're certainly not going to be handed out on track, that's for sure. But elsewhere, we have got before the end of November, we've got the Gold Split. The next race will be at Spa. So if you want to see a bit more of Spa in mixed conditions, come back for the Gold Split with me and Stevie covering that on the 30th of November. We've also got VMS Contender at Portimao on the 28th of November, a couple of days beforehand on the Friday. We've got the Bronze Split. We have then their next race will be Qatar, of course, on the 5th of December, 2 days before the Platinum Split round, of course. And then finally, VMS Challenger Tier 1 has a race on the 19th of November in 3 days' time, also at Spa-Francorchamps. So, yeah, it's Spa, baby. And we never get tired of it.
Yeah.
And
Last Friday was
like,
also Spa. Last Friday in the Bronze Split was also Spa, yeah.
But a finish like that reminds you of why Spa is so great, especially that fight between Ercan and Simoncic. It's just a tiny shame that we didn't get to see Dario Mulo cross the line as he richly deserved. But I'm sure Dario is going to come back fighting in Interlagos and at least end the season on high because he's been so impressive basically throughout. And Fabio Grigolotto on an off day somehow gets bailed out by purely random chance at the end of that one that just has kept him in the championship lead, I suspect. But yeah, Gielhead especially, Simoncic, both of those could very much be in play for the Hypercar. Not to mention, of course, Nicolas Hupen closing in on Marin Bessier. But Bessier, I think, in a very, very strong position with that P2 to limit the damage. And let's not ignore Etienne Manisha getting his first podium right at the death to beat Alexis Herndt, because that is another great story out of today. But that is your lot from the VMS Platinum Split. Thank you very much for joining us. I've been Edward Hunter. I've been Edward Hunter. Go get my own name right. Don't rush for it, Edward. Our broadcast director has been Nicolas Domino, who's done a fabulous job as always. Daniel Kurilov has been joining me in the commentary box, along with Lexi Taylor early on when I was otherwise delayed and then had to eat dinner during qualifying. We also look forward to having Chris Buxton back in the commentary box, of course, who was absent today because he was at a funeral. So I hope, I was about to say I hope it went well, but I think that's not what you should say about a funeral because it's not a happy occasion, is it? But yeah, nonetheless, rest in peace to Chris's friend, family, or acquaintance that passed away recently. So wish Chris all the best and look forward to having him back in the comments box for Interlagos. But that's all from me. And good night from Spa, and congratulations to our two winners, Arda Erchan and Nicolas Huben, who both made history tonight. Good night.